now started. Okay. So can you explain the twin study and like what it did and what you participated in?
The Minnesota Twin Study was something that the U of M has done, and actually we were considered the control group. So what they were doing is looking at research for twins that were separated at birth and raised separately, and then based on that they were trying to figure out what commonalities did they have and what things did they find. So they needed to have a baseline to look at. So then they were researching twins who were reared together or who grew up together. So we were part of that. The first time we had met with them, I want to say I was about 7 was the first time. And the first time through, they did everything from brainwave research. I mean, I remember, having like a shower cap on my head with all these different sensors, and they'd have us do different tasks to show us different videos and kind of gauge those different reactions. IQ tests, different motor skills, things like tying your shoe. Did I go to my left shoe first? Did I do my right shoe? Did I go over? Whatever. So they'd measure all these little idiosyncratic things and then compare it to twins who were separate to see what part of that nurture nature was inborn or not. And then since then, when I was younger, it was about every 3 years we would go in and do a follow-up, and they'd ask us interview questions and we'd do different tests. And then now that we're older, they follow up with me about every 5 years now, and then they ask that we contact them if there's any life-changing differences. So, a major accident to a marriage, birth, things like that.
Okay. When you were in this study, it was like, since you said you were 7, was it like scary for you guys, or were you guys just like, did you like eventually get used to it?
Yeah, no, actually it was pretty cool. People will ask at times like, well, what's it like to be a twin? And it's kind of like asking you, what's it like not to be? I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything different than being a twin. And I love it. I adore it. So, being a twin I knew was always something a little unique or different, especially during the time of growing up. I mean, I didn't know very many other twins at all. Now twins are much more common, but so I knew it was different. So the fact that somebody wanted to talk to me about it or ask me about it was cool. So I didn't find that weird at all. Plus, they paid us. I think it was $100 for an entire day, but $100 at whatever was at 7 was fun. And so it was. We were kind of told whenever we did this, half was something that you could spend, and the other half would have to go to college funds or whatever Mom had set aside for us. But no, it was something that we were interested in doing, and they were very good about sharing the research back with us. Not necessarily being able to say, oh, you specifically have an IQ of this, but more so of, well, we found that there's commonalities of you guys that is pretty strong. And later on, they had done fingerprinting, and they had taken blood. Just actually within the last 5 years, they were able to get more research, and so they've now are looking at DNA and things like that. So one of the things that was kind of cool is that we, to whatever studies they look at, is that my sister and I were one of the more identical groups of twins that they had through there. So they kind of range of how identical you are, and my sister and I were pretty high on that scale apparently. So that was kind of cool too.
So with that scale of how identical you guys were, was that including like when twins were veered apart and they like would do things like the same, and they like had never met each other? Would you guys do those kinds of things?
Yeah, when the scale part it was more biological, so things like fingerprints, your DNA is obviously the same, but so looking at some of those kind of I don't know, like things you're born with, that kind of a thing is more like our freckles or eye color to those kinds of things that you're more born with, that those were more similar than twins that were even reared together to twins that were reared apart. So the things that they found, since then, and actually my sister had read a book earlier, and I just read it this summer, and it was a set of twins that were reared apart and didn't know until the age of 36 that they actually even had another twin. And but the weirdness about how they had named their dog the same, had the same kind of, were in the same profession, actually had lived in similar cities, actually even during the same times. So these things that just is a little bit more than just, wow, that's a coincidence. There's something to it. So.
Okay. So you said you're still involved in the study every 5 years.
Yep, it's about every 5 years that they get in contact with us.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How does being a twin affect you with if it does affect you with the genetic similarities that you and your sister have?
I don't know about how being a twin things are, and I mean, obviously, like, biologically, you know, there are certain things, you know, that we've done with, thank you.
Those are the two.
Thank you. You know, that we've done where if medical history kind of things, I had children before my sister did, and so knowing some of the conditions or complications or whatever that I had, those were certainly things that she had to share with her doctor, and you know, as she had children later on, then to say, like, these were things that came up, and so you know, they always worry about medical history with families regardless, but with twins it's much more common that we'll have, you know, even exactly the same kind of experiences with those kind of medical things. So for those reasons, you know, you do have somebody that's a, you know, a pattern of, you know, we joke that, you know, if I ever needed a kidney or if I ever, you know, those things, I have my perfect match. So, you know, so for those reasons, I guess it affects me, of just that what I do or what I learn about me, I am learning about her, and what she does and learns about her, I find out about myself as well.
Great. I don't know if you might have already answered this, but this is just, again, like, what were they were just looking for, that you were so you're the control group.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just what were they looking for with you guys?
Overall, the study, and again, you know, I can send you that link to the website, which tells you a lot more about the actual study, because they started looking at like fraternal twin boys, and so they're trying to kind of narrow down, and it is a lot about the nurture-nature feature for that, but you know, how much of it is, you know, how much of this is who we become in our lives is dependent upon, you know, how I'm born. So as soon as I am born and come out of the womb, am I predisposed to be somebody or to do something, and how much of that is my mother or father raising me? Mr. Brubaker, yes.
You and Lori Keekly are potentially the only two people that can meet today, so we're not meeting.
Perfect.
Barb's gone, Marley's going to be gone, I'm going to be gone.
This
Al's
is all
gonna
on
be
video right now, so perfect.
gone. Awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Brad. So the idea behind that is that to know kind of how much of that, you know, we were raised by a single mother. So how much of what my life experiences are because was raised by a single mom, or is it because you know, I had a life partner of my sister growing up? Am I more extroverted or introverted because I had somebody else or not? So that the idea is kind of trying to look at all the different patterns and all the different information that they're finding between twins that were raised together. So my sister and I versus somebody else who they are twins, so they're born that way, yet never knew of their other twin, and so then they go off on their lives. And of course, I'm sure you've heard of stories like this, but there's 100 out there of, you know, twins that they find later on, and they, you know, are both firefighters, and they both married, you know, people the same, named their kids the same, names to all those different kind of things. So they no longer do it. It's harder to find. Now there's actually rules and regulations around separating twins or triplets for adoption purposes, but you know, 30, 40 years ago, not that it was common practice, but it happened, and due to different laws and stuff, they couldn't even tell you if you know, who your biological parents were, let alone who, you know, your siblings and things like that were. So as there's, you know, it's a small group that they're being able to work with for that, but that's kind of what they're looking at, is that whole nurture-nature scenario.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop this video.